we can't lose. It's the centurion's faith that wins him divine favor.
Hey, how's it going out there today, everybody? Hope everybody's having a great day. Coming to you today to talk about alternators and more about the aspect of, when something goes wrong as an owner-operator and, my thought process and, paying these bills. So, I kind of have it fixed where I have a certain amount I put back every mile for maintenance, okay? And then I have a certain amount I put back for breakdowns and, stuff like that. So this is kind of like borderline. Is it maintenance? Is it a breakdown? I kind of consider like an alternator, that's more maintenance to me than anything. Now, if I'd have had a tow bill with it or something like that, that would have been more of like breakdown considered, for me. But as far as like, wear parts on a truck, I consider that just part of the maintenance program. So what had happened was I was on my way to a customer, and they have a staging lot that I was going to park in overnight. Right as before I got to the customer, I noticed my AC kind of wasn't working, or it wasn't working. It was a very cool night, so it was kind of hard to tell, because I was still getting cool air through the vents, but definitely not cold air, not refrigerated air. And my truck still had not thrown a low voltage light, but apparently the voltage had got low enough to where the AC compressor wasn't engaging. The clutch on the compressor wasn't engaging. So right before I got to the customer, I did get a low voltage light for about, 2 seconds, and then it went off. I thought maybe I had a loose battery cable or something, because I did replace these batteries about a month ago. I did replace them myself. I did the labor on that. Anytime I can fix something on my truck myself, I prefer to do it more for the fact of, it does save a little bit of money, but at least I know like the quality of the work being done. So I thought maybe, I had a loose battery cable, because it had been about a month, and I rode about, 200 miles, and then I got out and I checked those battery cables and retightened, went through and double checked everything, make sure nothing had moved around, or, and then retightened everything. And then it had been about a month, so I was like, well, I don't know, maybe, I didn't give it enough time for everything to settle in before I checked them. So I did get out there and double check them. I had a negative cable that was loose, but it wasn't loose enough to, I probably couldn't have turned it off, I probably couldn't have unscrewed it by hand, the nut by hand, so it wasn't that loose, but I did retighten everything. Got up the next morning, fired up the truck, built my air pressure up, was getting ready to go to my dock door, and as I got ready to pull out of the staging lot to the dock door, then I got my low voltage light, and I flipped through and I checked my voltage, and I was charging at about probably like 11.9, somewhere in there. So I knew the alternator was dying. I knew it was dying. So at that point I was a little worried though, because I was going underground to a delivery that, in those one of those those abandoned mine deliveries. So I was a little worried about it, because I was like, if my truck dies down here, I'm gonna have real issues. So luckily, I'd already got to the point where I was like thinking about jumper cables to the reefer unit. I'm like, because, I'm like, if my truck doesn't recrank, I have to at least jump it to the point to where I can pull forward and close the trailer doors. And being underground, they don't want you running your truck or your trailer. They want you to turn everything off because of, the fumes. So I was a little concerned of what I was going to have to do to make all of that work. Luckily, the truck cranked. It was still at like, 12 volts, somewhere in that ballpark. Being underground, again, another dilemma of being underground, I could not do research. I couldn't find a parts place. I couldn't find a place to work on the truck. So I had to wait till I got out of the cave, or mine, or whatever the hell the thing was, and go back up to the staging lot. And then from there, I found there was a Freightliner dealer that was just literally like 6 or 7 miles away, and I got lucky. I got lucky. So the cost and everything associated with this, and I want to show this and talk about this because, you know, this is part of what this channel is to take the guesswork out of going from a company driver to an owner operator. That's kind of what I'm trying to do. Like, I think a lot of company drivers have the right mentality and they're smart enough to be owner operators, and I think, you know, they're, you know, I'll put it from my perspective. When I was a company driver, I knew enough about business and I knew how to drive a truck, and I could have been an owner operator a couple years earlier than I was. And the problem with it was I wasn't sure about the guesswork of not knowing, like, you know, little things like this. You know, like, anytime as a company driver I would get work done on the truck, I would try to get the receipt and see what the receipt said. Or at least ask, you know, hey, how much was the bill on that? You know, because a lot of times you never even see, you know, the bill or anything. So this bill, now I had Freightliner put this part on. This is not a hard part to put on, I'll be honest with you. You know, it's your typical alternator. It's held on by 4 bolts, 4 5/8 bolts. And the only dilemma, the only real issue with it is the bottom 2 bolts have to be gotten to from the bottom side, and you kind of need a long ratchet to do that. So, you know, I have and I recommend this. If you don't have one, I recommend one, and I'll put a link to one in the description. A good 1/2-inch drive ratchet set. I really recommend a 1/2-inch drive because a lot of the bolts on a truck are just bigger bolts. You know, it's not like working on your Hyundai. You know, it's bigger bolts, and you're going to need you know, more torque to get these bolts loose and to break things off. And for me, the 1/2-inch is the way to be. So you know, I have a good 1/2-inch set. I could have got in there and got that done with. It just requires a longer ratchet. And now, you know, I would have figured out how to do it with the one I had if I really needed to. But here's what happened. I called the Freightliner dealership. I said, hey, I think I got a Cascadia. I think the alternator's gone on it. You know, can I swing by there and have you guys, you know, tell me what you think? So I swung by there. I went in. I talked to the guy for a minute. And now my thought was, my strategy was, if he says this is going to be, you know, anything like more than immediate. All right, I'm back. Sorry, I had to go find a dock door. So continuing on, so my thought process was, if this is going to take a long time, I'm going to do this myself. I was in Missouri. I had to be in Texas, like 680 miles away the next morning at 4 a.m. And this was like, you know, 10 o'clock in the morning already, because I'd already made a delivery that morning to the, you know, the mine. So I go to Freightliner. I go in, I talk to the guy. You know, he says, so, like, you know, are you just going to get the part, or, you know, do you want us to put it on? And I said, it depends on time. And he said, if you want us to do it, you can drop your trailer and I'll pull it in right now and do it. So I said, hey, you can do it. Now, most of the time, you know, I would save the, you know, labor rate there was $145 an hour. And that's an hour labor rate job. So $145 in labor on that. And I could have saved the $23 in shop supplies. Shop supplies are getting out of control, man. They're getting out of control. I love joking about shop supplies. You know, I'm gonna start a business where I sell nothing but shop supplies. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a racket. But you know, to change an alternator out, there's not $23 in shop supplies needed. I promise. That guy probably used you know, 1 squirt of Fast Orange to get his hands clean after the job, and a rag or 2 to wipe them off. I don't know what else you would have needed, you know. I don't know what else was needed. But I let them do it just for the fact of, by the time I would have, all I did was drop my trailer, pull my truck around, and they put it right into the shop and started working on it. I was literally there for about an hour. I went next door, ate some food, and by the time I came back, you know, I was like going to grab my Bluetooth out of the truck and make some phone calls, and the guy was like, you know, he's like, give me about 5 minutes and I'll have you wrapped up. So got really lucky on that one. That is the Freightliner dealer. That is Midway Freightliner is the name of that Freightliner. It is Palmyra, Missouri, off of US 61 over in that area. So shout out to that Freightliner, in and out, bing, bam, boom. You know, that's just how you do it. Sometimes you know, it's quicker to let them do it, because I figured it like this. I had 700 miles to run in about, I don't know, a 20-hour period. I had to get moving. And, you know, by the time I got my tools out, I'm not as efficient at the job because I don't do it every day. By the time I clean everything up, get everything put back together, I probably would have been in it, you know, 2-3 hours. It's just how it is. You know, I don't have a nice, neat shop to work in. I probably would have grabbed the part, went up to the truck stop up the road, and, you know, tried to put it on up there. So sometimes you just pay to have it done, you know. And would I've liked to have that, you know, $166 in my pocket? You damn right I would. But sometimes you just gotta pay it, you know. It's also, you gotta think about your spent energy, you know. With 700 miles left, and this is really why I let them do it. For the 700 miles I needed to run the next day, because I had a Target delivery, and to show up late at Target is not a good thing. So I said, you know, if I'm gonna have to run all night to get to Target anyway. So if I get out here and it wasn't that hot, it was probably like 75 out, you know, actually nice weather that day. But I'm like, if I get out here, I get all hot and I get all sweaty and all dirty, like, what am I doing to myself as far as like energy, you know? Like, come 2 o'clock the next morning, like, I'm gonna be done, versus I gotta be at Target at 4:30 in the morning, so I'm gonna have to push it all the way to 4:30 in the morning. So you know, just to justify it, but I just let them do it. You know, and I'll put the cost up here right now. You know, I just took a picture of what this cost. So now I got new batteries and a new alternator for winter, so I feel good about that, you know. And I'm thinking about doing the starter on this truck whenever I get home, just to complete the process, you know. You know, if the alternator and the batteries needed changing, the starter's probably not far behind, so I'll probably do the starter myself at home to, you know, save some money. Depends on where I may even order the starter to see if I can get it cheaper than just going up to the Freightliner dealer when I get home and purchasing that. But here's the breakdown. $145 labor cost, $247.63 on that alternator, $23.20 in shop supplies, killing me Smalls. Subtotal $415.83. Tax on that $21.94 for a grand total of $437.77. Comes right out of the maintenance account, you know, no big deal, no bubbles, no troubles. Most of the time on a part like this, it isn't the cost that gets you, it's the time that gets you, because if they would have, you know, if I couldn't have made that Target delivery and had to reschedule that Target, I could have been 2 or 3 days lost just on an alternator, you know. So, and I would have blamed myself for that, because with the batteries and the shape they were in, I was kind of telling myself, like, you know, that alternator can't be far behind. That alternator has to be like right there, because I had 2 batteries that were in pretty bad shape by the time I got to them. So you know, just what it is. But there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. If you made it this far, hit that like button. Like I say, down in that description, there's lots of resources to help an owner operator. Mudflap, you know, buy some Cash is King merch if you're down there checking things out. And check out that link for that 1/2-inch drive. I'll put a link to that on Amazon. By all means, if you're an owner operator, invest in some tools. I know everybody says it, and they say it for a reason. It is just common sense. it just makes sense. Save you so much money. The little things I do to this truck on my own without having to put everything in the TA or the Loves or the Freightliner dealer, you know, all the little things I do along the way save a ton on these $145 an hour labor costs. So, you know, it's kind of like my tire pressure monitoring system. I paid like $70 for that one. I'm really debating whether going and paying like the $200 or $300 to get a good one. But for right now, mine's, you know, at least lets me know what's going on. It's not perfect, but the way I look at that is if that thing saves me one road call, it's paid for itself. You know, that's the way I look at stuff like that, like tools. If it saves me one time in the shop, it probably paid for itself. So it's a no-brainer. But yeah, everything's in the description down below. If you're not a channel subscriber, check it out. Come join me for a live show. Love doing those. There's no better way to learn or get your questions answered than in a live, because I'm way behind on emails, and I just got to be honest with you guys. Answering emails are a hard thing to get to for me, but I do try to get to them when I have a little free time. So if you really want to get your questions answered, come in a live show. That's the best way to do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of each other out there. Later.